These potatoes I put on the windowsill a couple of months ago. These are the ones I washed the clay off to make my little clay pot. So these are Cyprus potatoes. They've shriveled up quite a bit, but they've got some really good sprouts on them. I'm going to plant these potatoes today. It's nearly the end of June and we're already harvesting our first potatoes right now, but I'm going to plant these and we'll be able to harvest these hopefully sometime in autumn. In fact, it's not just those. We've got some potatoes in the potato sack here, which been left in there for a little bit too long. Yeah, I think we might plant a few of those as well. Right, not proper seed potatoes. If you buy seed potatoes from a reputable seed merchant, garden centre, something like that, you'll be buying virus-free, certified virus-free potato stock. This is not guaranteed to be virus-free, but to be honest, that really only matters when you're growing a whole field of them. Here at home, growing a small amount of potatoes, if I lose the crop to virus, it's not the end of the world. So I've just got two big plastic planters, and I've got here a mixture of garden soil and potting compost. So this is a composted bark-based potting compost mixed with ordinary sifted garden soil that we just dug out of a hole when we were planting something. Right, so half full, and this is quite a lot of potatoes to put in a small pot like this, but we'll just make sure we feed and water them and they should be fine. So I'm going to put 3 in each pot. This is, yeah, overcrowding a bit, but we'll see what happens. So 3 potatoes in each one, and I'll cover them with more compost. They're not very deeply covered at the moment, but that's fine. And I've left some space in the top here because as they sprout, we'll add some more compost, earth them up a little bit. And in theory, that gives us a higher yield because the plants will produce roots from the stem and they'll produce more potatoes. Okay, here's as good a place as any for them. I'm just going to give them a water and feed now. And hopefully these will sprout and show some green growth within a week or two. And hopefully we'll have some potatoes toward the end of summer. It'll be interesting to see how these get on. I have grown potatoes in pots before. They're very vulnerable to being underwatered, so I will have to keep an eye on these. But if we go away for a bit, I can move them into a place where I can use the automatic watering system on them. We've got 1 or 2 problems in this greenhouse. Well, actually one really major problem, which is that some of my tomatoes have got blossom end rot, which I'll show you what that's like. Actually, I'll pick this tomato because there's not much point in letting it grow on there. That is blossom end rot. Now, that could be a mineral deficiency. People say it's calcium deficiency that causes that, except that I've been feeding these all the same. And certain varieties, it looks like, see, this is Tigerella, there's no problem at all with those. I can't remember which variety this one is here again, but there's something wrong with that one, but that's been eaten by a woodlouse or something. So certain varieties are obviously resistant to blossom end rot, and yes, there's plum tomatoes here as well. Again, there's a little bit on that, but then not on others. So I have been feeding with calcium, well, feeding with tomato plant food that contains calcium, but it doesn't seem to be working. It could be that I've just overcrowded these grow bags. People did tell me that's a possibility. I think I might have overcrowded the greenhouse in general. So I think lesson learned for next year. I will grow fewer tomato plants. I don't think I'm going to grow them in grow bags next year. I'm going to grow them in rings directly on the soil so they can get their roots right down. Anyway, so that's the problem, but we are going to still have some tomatoes, I'm sure, because they're not all affected, but I'm going to go around and pick all the ones that have got blossom end rot, because there's no point in the plants putting any energy into developing these fruits that are just going to rot. I might as well pick those off, and hopefully if I feed these plants up, see those little fruits there don't have the problem. So if I keep on feeding and watering these plants and pick off the fruits that have got the problem, hopefully the ones that remain will get the nutrients and won't have the problem. Yeah, see there's a mixture there. Anyway, so we'll do that, and as I say, we will get some tomatoes off of here, just rather disappointingly fewer than I hoped for. But it's not all bad news, because when I rummaged down here yesterday, I noticed we got cucumbers. Here's a cucumber down there, and that affords me an opportunity to taste a cucumber and find out if the problem I have with the flavour of cucumber is me or the cucumbers. Just noticed there's a couple more, but they're really curly there, which might mean they've been pollinated. Pollinated cucumbers are sometimes bitter. Anyway, I'm going to pick that cucumber and we'll take it inside and give it a taste. So, homegrown cucumber, I've given it a little wash. Interestingly, this is actually quite ripe. This has ripened a little bit and gone yellow. That's what cucumbers do. Normally they're picked sort of underripe. I'm going to taste this because cucumber to me, as I've mentioned probably in several videos in the past, oh, that looks really good. Cucumber a couple of years ago began tasting really awful to me, and I don't know if it was COVID. I didn't have any other symptoms, but cucumber tastes like kind of the smell of old library books to me now. Anyway, I'm going to taste a bit of homegrown cucumber, because I don't know whether it's me or whether it's cucumbers or what. Anyway, little sniff. Okay, well, I'm not hopeful that that's going to be any different to my normal experience of cucumber, but here goes. In fact, what I'll do, I'll cut that in half, taste a bit with the skin on. Actually, no, that tastes like cucumbers that I remember. That doesn't have the unpleasant aroma. So, could it really be that cucumbers in shops have changed, and I'm the only one in the world that can detect the change in flavour? It seems unlikely. That tastes like the cucumbers of my memory. That's really interesting. I was not expecting that. I was expecting to find this taste just the same as the cucumbers from the shops, and that the problem is me, but it seems like the whole world has changed. Okay, slight correction to what I just asserted. There is, after 5 minutes, a really faint aftertaste for this cucumber, which I'm not finding very pleasant. However, there's nothing like the intensity of kind of mustiness that I normally experience when I eat cucumbers. So I think it probably is me, but I think it probably also is that certain varieties of cucumber are more prone to that flavour than others. It doesn't affect pickles, gherkins. Absolutely fine. Courgettes, pumpkins, melons, other members of the cucurbit family, not a problem at all. It's just green cucumbers that I buy in the supermarket that really have this problem. Or for me they do. There is also this to show you. So this is the squash that's grown from the seeds of the volunteer squash that grew in my garden at the old house. And we've got more flowers coming along here. So we've got, that's a male flower, but that there, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, that's a female flower. You can tell because there's this little embryo fruit just behind the flower. So that's going to be a female flower. Let's just see what we got on this plant here. So that's a female flower. That's another female flower there. These are male flowers. There's another female flower there. So it looks like we're going to have a good crop of squashes. I just need to make sure that they all get pollinated and properly watered, but that's developing really fast. Watering is now the key thing for this. Make sure that I give it plenty of water and food so that it can expand that fruit and fill it with seeds. Now, not everything in the garden has been a huge success. The broad beans, the potatoes, the courgettes have been... Hey, do you mind? The potatoes, the broad beans, the courgettes have all been quite successful. But as I mentioned earlier, the tomatoes are suffering from blossom end rot. Not all of them. So we have got some tomatoes, including actually some to pick first, red tomatoes. We'll do that in a moment. But this plot here, this small plot with the yard-long beans in it, this was black-eyed beans and cowpeas, just hasn't done anything. The plants have experienced what I would describe as failure to launch. They've grown to a certain size and then they're just doing nothing. And I don't know why. It might well be that the climate here is not suitable for these plants. This is black-eyed beans. They are a different species of bean to your sort of French beans and runner beans. So it might be that we just haven't got a suitable climate to grow them. But one thing that's peculiar here is the weeds aren't even doing very well in this plot. So I've got stinging nettles in there. There are stinging nettles in there and they have stayed small. So maybe there's something wrong with the soil. I've tried watering, I've tried refraining from watering, I've tried feeding, I've tried starving them. Nothing really seems to make any difference. So I don't know what's actually going wrong here. I suspect there's just something amiss with the soil in this thing. Might have to dig it out and replace it at the end of the year. Anyway, you know, you can't win them all, but it is time to pick a tomato or two. So we've got one little ripe tomato there. This is going to be the first tomato that I taste from the garden. And so this variety is Gardener's Delight. Well, appropriately named. The yield of tomatoes in here has not been great actually, because life got in the way of maintaining the plants, and I've not pinched out all the side shoots. I've probably not fed them as much as I ought to. The automatic watering system, is, by the way, is still working really well, even though that's the one with the rusty motor in it. But yeah, so Gardener's Delight. Well, there's quite a lot of tomatoes still to come there, look. And these ones haven't got blossom end rot. Anyway, time for tasting the first tomato. Yeah, that was worth it. Just such a burst of flavour. Right, then also in here we've got some to be picked. Let's have a look at these. Oh, these have got blossom end rot, so they're no good. So let's get rid of those. Yeah, you can see, unfortunately, blossom end rot. I wonder if that's true of all of those. Yeah, that one's the same. So I've got another red one in there, but it's also got the same problem. Let's get rid of it. So I should have picked those off actually, so the plant didn't bother expending any energy making them bigger. Yeah, there's another one there. It's also the same. Sad news. There's one there. Again, blossom end rot. Not great. So those, they're not diseased. They're just it's probably a nutritional failure there. So I will compost those. Let's see if we got any more red tomatoes. I might have to go outside the greenhouse to get them. So there's a couple down there, but they're not quite ripe yet. Can't see any more for now. So anyway, the first one, which was Gardener's Delight, was indeed a delight. Plum tomatoes I've got here have got no problems with blossom end rot. Neither have these, which is Moneymaker. Alicante, not a problem. There's a little bit on that big one there. There really isn't any point in letting that tomato develop. It's a shame. It's a big old tomato, but there's no point in letting that develop. It will just rot before it ripens. I might I might be able to cut the green bits off and actually use them, so I will put that in the basket. Roma seems to be okay. So Roma is not suffering with a problem, and I think this one here is Tigerella. It might be Tiger Tom. Let's have a look. You know, this one is Golden Sunrise. Okay, Golden Sunrise. Interesting, it looks stripy. I thought that was going to be the stripy one. So Golden Sunrise looks like it's going to be okay. This one here is Tigerella. And doesn't appear to have any problems at all with the blossom end rot. This one here unfortunately does, and I can't get to the label. But as I say, yeah, it's not a problem on all of the plants. Certain varieties seem to have done better than others, and actually in general the plants at the end of the greenhouse here have done a lot better than the plants on the side here. I think that's down to feeding. This grow bag in particular, I think probably just had a better level of food in it than these two here. Same number of plants in every one, but yeah, they just didn't. These ones really took off. These ones have remained a bit pale and pasty all the way through. Anyway, we will have some tomatoes off these plants. We're not going to have a massive yield because I've made lots of mistakes. Like I say, life got in the way. Next year I'm going to grow fewer plants, and I'm going to make a little bit more effort to grow them using proper methods. I'm going to grow them in rings on the soil, I think. Anyway, down here, this is the cucumber. This is Crystal Lemon. I would say that's probably ready to pick. So let's get in there and pick a cucumber. Bit of a weird looking end on it, but I think we'll take that indoors and give it a taste. The aubergines have been flowering. Oh, look at that, isn't that a pretty flower? Aubergines have been flowering. Have I got any little baby aubergines yet? Not yet, but I don't think it'll be long. Seen flowers on these peppers here, and probably there are some small fruits somewhere. I got flowers on my hot peppers here, and some. This is a Scotch bonnet type of habanero type of pepper. I think this one's called Burkina orange or something. So this is a African style hot pepper. Oh look, we've got some on that one as well. And there's another cucumber there. One of the Crystal Lemon cucumbers there. So all sorts of good stuff happening. Things have gone a little bit crazy, but I'm just going to go with the flow. We're going to have some nice yield off of this for sure. So it's time to be tasting another cucumber. And just to put this in context, cucumbers that I buy in the shops taste really weird to me. It started a couple of years ago. Might be COVID, might not, but cucumbers that I buy from the shops just abruptly started tasting like the smell of library books, and I can't eat them. The homegrown cucumber, the regular sort of long green Telegraph cucumber that I tried from the greenhouse, was definitely not as bad as the ones I get in the shops, but it did have a kind of weird, almost like seafoody aftertaste to me. This one's called Crystal Lemon, and it's supposed to be round. And that's what it looks like inside. I suppose that's a bit like a lemon. But how does it taste? That's what it looks like in close-up. From the smell, I think this is going to give me a problem. But anyway, here goes. Actually, no, that's okay. The skin, not so much. Yeah, no, the skin has got the weird cucumber flavour. So the inside bits. So let's see. I mean, if I was to chop off all of the skin and just eat the weird gelatinous seeds inside. Yeah, that's okay. Also kind of pointless, but yeah, the The whole thing does taste a bit weirdly cucumber. Oh well, we tried. Today's wildlife friend is this little chap. A robin. European robin. Americans might be confused by me calling this a robin because it's not the size of a chicken. But this is our robin. I'm not quite sure why this one's got such a scruffy appearance. It may be that it's a youngster and that's plumage that's yet to grow in, or it could be that this is a senior citizen. Actually, it looks a bit fluffy. I think this is a youngster. So I was out here working in the woodshed, and I've scraped back a bit of soil there just so he can get down and find some worms and wood lice and such in the top surface of the soil there. Now it's interesting, isn't it, how close I'm able to get to this bird. Robins are often characterised as friendly birds. Actually what's happening is that they're just unafraid. They are bold and territorial, and so him coming close to me like this is his way of saying, I'll fight you if I need to. I imagine if I had something that he'd like to eat, like a mealworm or something like that, he might even fly up and take it from my hand. But I'm not going to try and tame the birds in this garden because I just don't think that's doing them any favours. So there we go. Today's wildlife friend is that little robin. I think that's a youngster. I think that's why his plumage is so scruffy and untidy. Sadly, they don't live very long, robins. They're not long-lived birds. I think they live about 18 months. There we go. A robin. One of quite a few that we've got in the woodland and in the garden here. And we're quite often visited by robins, and they'll come and take crumbs off the table, even when you're sitting there. Insect friends, mostly hoverflies. I've just never seen this many hoverflies in the same place like this before. Quite remarkable. One's just landed on me. And there's a bumblebee trying to get in there for the pollen and nectar. Kind of a bit hassled by all the hoverflies, I feel. But look at them all in there feeding on pollen. Here is today's wildlife friend, a very pretty snail. I'm not very good at identifying snails, apart from the common garden snail, which I know very well. So I don't know which species this is, but I will try and look it up and we'll put it on the screen. So this is just a snail on a bramble leaf, just down the road from where I live. Just doing its snail thing. And snails are often thought of as kind of the enemies of gardeners, and to a certain extent they are. If they get to your buds of your courgettes, the plants are done for. But they don't need to be eradicated, I find. I've got them under control in the vegetable patch. Just keeping them out is most of the thing, actually. And you can put things on the surface of the soil like wool or cat litter or anything that they just don't like to cross. Or actually a lot of the time in the drier weather, just keeping the soil surface dry keeps the snails away from the plants. They'll not cross very dry soil. Of course, when it rains you have to do something about that. Anyway, but yeah, there we go. Very pretty stripy snail. Okay, well here we are again. It's the 7th of July. It's a lovely warm evening. It's about 11 o'clock at night. And I'm out here in shorts and short sleeves, and it still feels quite warm. So we're looking for glowworms. We've had a little bit of rainfall, so there's some moisture around, which is apparently what they like. and it's a warm evening at the right time of year. So, you know, we might be lucky. Hasn't happened so far. Now I do have to walk along here in pitch darkness. If I try to use a torch, that's just going to both ruin my night vision and it'll scare off the glowworms if there are any. At this point, I'm starting to think that glowworms might be some mythological beast that doesn't actually exist, except I have seen them before, a long time ago. Anyway, we'll keep looking. This part here is extremely weird. This is the darkest it's been when I've walked along here. Partly because the sky is overcast, and partly just because it's a bit later than it was when I last came. I can barely see where I'm going. There's a river to my left, and I'm navigating as much by sound that my feet are still on the gravel track as I am by sight, more so by sound than sight actually. Kind of just almost navigating by dead reckoning here. Let's hope I don't go and fall in the river. I'm going to try somewhere I haven't been, at least on the glowworm hunt before. I'm going to try this footpath that goes up between some long weeds. Goes up a chalk hill. See if we get any luck with that. Really, if we were going to see them, I think this would be the place. Unfortunately, not. So, another night perhaps. We'll keep trying. I think I'll probably keep trying this until the end of July. I see one. I'm hoping you can see it right there in the bushes there. Can you see a really dim light in the bush there? I'm hoping you can. Yeah, I can see it on the viewfinder now. There we go, a glowworm. Awesome. We actually got to see one. Now I realise that's just a pixel on the screen, but it is an actual glowworm. And I can't get any closer to it because it's right in the middle of the hedge. I'm just going to have to try and get you the best view I can through the leaves. There. Like I say, appreciate that is just a pixel. But that is a glowworm. I'm going to leave that now, but hopefully we'll encounter one in a bit more of an open location a bit further on, because if we've seen one, there's a good chance we'll see more than one. Okay, I see another one. And this one's by the side of the path, so I think we can get closer. Don't know if you want to see it yet. I'll try to really quietly. Don't know if you can see that on the camera yet. There it is. Glowworm, and I can just about in there, I can see the segmentation of the abdomen. We saw a glowworm, well we saw two glowworms, but one really nice and close. It doesn't appear to be all that worried about me either. How about that? Glowworm success. See it moving actually. Right, I'm going to leave it alone because again these things are a rarity and I want it to do its thing. I want it to be successful in breeding, so I'm just going to leave it alone. It's signalling for a mate. I'm going to walk away with, gotta say, a huge sense of satisfaction in my heart because we did what we set out to do. We've seen 2 glowworms this evening. Well, appreciate all you can see is a dark screen now with perhaps some house lights and stuff on it. You can't see my face and you can't see my demeanour, but there's a spring in my step and I'm grinning from ear to ear because I saw the thing that I set out to see and it was just so exciting. It's just a beetle. It's just a beetle that lights up, but I am grinning like a kid because I saw it. So back at Shrimp Cottage, there's another mystery sound. What is that? It seems to be on the ground over on the little wildlife bank we've created. Is that a frog? I don't think that's a bird. If you know what that is, let me know in the comments. Okay, we came back the night after. I'm here with Jenny, and tonight we spotted 3 glowworms in the hedge. One there, one there, and one there. And we're not even finished yet. And hopefully what you'll be seeing on the screen right now is a long exposure still photo that I've taken with my better camera. Hopefully it'll show you something that maybe wasn't evident in the video. So out for another night of glowworm hunting. I found another one. This one's only glowing very faintly. I hope you're going to be able to see that on the video. Could be because I've disturbed it. Just me on my own tonight. She was very pleased to see the glowworms yesterday, but this is way past Jenny's bedtime. So, just me tonight. Anyway, let's move on and see if we can find some more. My objective is to try to get a good photograph, or as good a photograph as I can, of glowworms, within the limitations of the camera equipment I've got, which is not really suited to nighttime photography, but I will try and take a long exposure shot and see what I can get. So I'm not seeing so many of them tonight. I've just seen one in the bushes here, which I'm not even sure you're going to see even as a tiny pixel. It's hidden away in the long grass. I can just see a little glimmer of it. There you go. Do you see it? Really hard to get these things. Most of that movement you're seeing there is me just unable to hold the camera steady enough, and that was too awkward a position to get the tripod in there. Now, whilst I have managed to compose and calm myself down a little bit since previous nights where my excitement was probably very, very obvious, it is no less magical every time I see one of these. So this is the spot we were at last night where we saw quite a few of them. There it is. I've got the tripod, so we'll hopefully get a better or clearer view of it. Let me zoom you in. I have no idea if that helps. Perhaps you can see the segmentation of the glowworm's abdomen. Anyway, I'm going to stop recording video and see if I can get a still. The other one up here that I tried to photograph earlier is possibly the brightest one we've seen so far. Where is it? There it is. I don't think that looks very bright on camera. So we're going to say goodnight to this glowworm now. Hopefully somewhere in amongst that lot I did get some good pictures. Going to walk back now, see if there's any more to see. but if not, that could be the last glowworm hunt for a little while. I've kind of met the objective. Until I can get a better camera that can take better nighttime pictures, I think we'll just leave them alone. So appreciate, it might have been preferable in some ways for you to see me catch one of these things in a jam jar, take it home and show it to you in the light so you can actually get an idea for what it looks like. I don't really want to do that. I don't really want to disturb them any more than necessary. They're quite rare and special things, so I'm here to document them as unintrusively as I possibly can. So I think we saw another 5 or 6 of them tonight. Probably different ones, because probably the individuals we saw on previous nights will have mated and achieved their objective and won't have a requirement to light up at night anymore. But anyway, there seems to be a reasonably healthy, if rather small, population of glowworms here in this very, very dark spot in Dorset. And dark is the key word here, really. The spot where I found all of these, not only is it unlit, you can't see another light, you can't see another human piece of illumination anywhere. You can't see any house lights, car lights, street lights, anything like that. And I think that's why they're still thriving there. And unfortunately, that's why they're not doing so well in other places, artificial lighting. I know we need it, but it's not so great for the glowworms. Anyway, that's probably the end of the glowworm segment, at least for this year. Although, who knows what may happen.
What to do with all of that Seaglass we found at Charmouth on the Seaglass Olympics Day. Haven't really decided what we might do with this finally yet, but I thought we'd just get a kind of temporary solution that at least looks nice. I've also got this Seaglass to add to it, which is from a previous visit to Charmouth. Same location, and same kind of assortment. Some nice bluey aqua colour Seaglass in there. I see a red piece just then. Anyway, we'll sort through that. There's brown pieces, some bluish pieces. We'll sort through it. So I thought just to put it somewhere where it's neat and tidy and hopefully looks a bit nice while we decide what, if anything, we do with this later, I'm going to put it in this jar. Picked this up in a charity shop for 75 pence. Made in Italy. This must be one of those jars where you snap the spaghetti in half to put it in there. Just kidding. Just kidding. I'm a very bad man. Right, so I'm going to sort this Seaglass out into colours because I feel like I want to put it in here in layers. So the problem with trying to sort Seaglass out by colour is that there is kind of a continuous spectrum of colours between completely clear and dark green or dark brown. And so it's always a bit of a weird thing trying to decide who's in what group. But we'll do our best. So I've got some dark greens here. I mean, it is a bit subjective. I've got some kind of sea greens there. Clear stuff. Clear stuff I'll put back in that corner for the moment. That's the thing we're going to have most of. And then this is kind of beer bottle green, so probably Heineken bottles or something like that. Right, that's the sorting out done. So we got brown, kind of vintage Coke bottle, modern beer bottle, champagne bottle, and then wine bottle sort of colours here, and blue. And then these assortment of pale, not quite blue, not quite green colours, plus a whole lot of stuff that isn't Seaglass. I'm sure that wasn't a deciding factor in the Seaglass Olympics. And there's one piece of this. I found this when we were doing the Seaglass Olympics. This is a piece of Vaseline glass. And this is a thing that proves this glass, or at least some of this glass, came from quite an old bottle dump. This is a piece of an old Vaseline bottle. It's a kind of milky, translucent white glass. One piece of that. It is interesting how sorting it into colours has also given us some sorting by sizes. So this modern beer bottle stuff, I'm pretty sure this is from like mostly Heineken bottles, that sort of thing. That is thinner, smaller pieces. Whereas this, which I think is probably from wine bottles and champagne bottles with probably a punt in the bottom and quite chunky bases. So that's thicker and larger nuggets. And similarly over here, this pale blue, which I called vintage Coke bottle, and I'm not kidding. Some of that probably is from Coke bottles or Pepsi bottles or that sort of thing, but old ones. Again, chunky, thick-walled pieces of glass. And then over here, this blue stuff, I'll get you in close so you can see that because there's only a tiny amount of it. So the blue glass, there's only a tiny amount of it, and it's flat pieces, and they're all very small. And that's because that's from poison bottles. And again, that's a diagnostic of this being a Victorian bottle dump, is that's from poison and medicine bottles, which were typically quite small and thin-walled. Anyway, that's probably more than enough waffle and speculation about Seaglass. Let's get this bottle filled up. So what I've got in greatest abundance is white. Clear glass. So I will start with that. And I think maybe what I'll do is I'll tilt this so that we get layers that aren't just strata. Right, so that's that. What we've got next in most abundance is this green. So let's get some of that in there. I'm going to try and get that in to that corner. That's good. It's working. So yeah, I'm going to layer it, but not exactly layers. And that seems like a good place to put the blue. So we're just going to drop the blue down into that corner there so that we do get a chance to see it a bit more. Getting close to the top now and haven't used up all the glass. Do you know what? I don't like it. I actually don't like it all layered like that. I think I'd rather have it mixed. So after all of that sorting out, not really happy with the way that looked once it was all layered. It just spoilt it, I think. So it's going to be mixed. But you know, nothing's ever wasted. We did get to make an observation about the distribution of glass with, you know, different kinds of things, like a bit of Coke bottle, almost certainly. And if nothing else, it was a relaxing exercise just sitting here and sifting through glass. Yeah, I think I like it better when it's just random and natural. Yeah, I definitely like that better, like that. Right, I think we'll put that on a sunny windowsill where it can catch the light. Just happened to be back in the neighbourhood, back in my old neighbourhood. I thought I'd check in and see if I can find any of my tree babies. This is the field where I threw a very large number of acorns, and I'm just going to see if I can find any of my little oak trees. It's still quite overgrown, although this is new. There's a road in here now, there's a gate, but I think that's just to provide access because the other development work got it cut off. I don't think this field is getting developed. Anyway, I'm going to have a little wander along this way and see what we can find. Apologies for the slightly wobbly camera. I didn't bring my GoPro with me. So yeah, that's probably a few of my seedlings are gone from this being cut through here. German chamomile here.
Now I'm not going to do a full circuit of the field because we haven't got time for that, but I'm just going to walk far enough to see if I can spot one or two of my little oak seedlings. Okay, well, here's a bit of good news. That's one of my tree babies. In fact, yeah, there's one there. I see another one over there. So, good news, and that's looking pretty healthy. That's a little oak tree there. Got several years of growth on it now. A little bit swamped by all of these weeds and things, but that's one of my tree babies. I'm happy. Obviously this hasn't been cut down or mowed or anything like that. There's still a chance that they will come in here, clear all of this and start using it as farmland again. But it's been derelict for quite a few years now, and hopefully that's a chance for a forest to get established. Yeah, I see another one just in there. So there we go. Another one of my tree babies. Cool. Well, mission kind of accomplished. It's time for the comment positivity section. This is where I'm just going to pick out a handful of comments that were either uplifting or encouraging, or perhaps asked an interesting question that I'd like to answer. So starting off with, this is on the little bit easier recent budget challenge. Enjoyed that. Additionally, we now say I'm going to shrimp that when looking in the fridge before shopping day and cobbling together meals with imagination. Interesting. So yeah, I'm going to shrimp that. I presumably means I'm going to do that in the style of atomic shrimp. So there's an interesting question for you. Given that I do have, I suppose, a collection of idiosyncrasies, what else could I'm going to shrimp that mean? This is when I was separating chicken stock and chicken fat. I thought you were going to bust out a chemistry lab separatory funnel. Would be a weird shrimp Nile red collab we didn't think we needed. Actually, that is a really good idea. I wonder if you can get a separatory funnel that's easy enough to clean if it gets greasy on the inside. That would be an ideal way of separating stock because, as I mentioned in the video, those glass jug separators are very fragile at the bottom of the spout, and the plastic versions of the same, I've tried them and you just can't get them clean. They kind of get sticky and greasy and you never get them clean. So perhaps some lab glassware might be the solution. Good idea. Question not related to the video. Have you heard of any email scams going around where an apartment developer is asking random people to become a partner in their latest construction project for a down payment of $10,000? My mother told me my sister-in-law has been asking everyone under the sun to help her come up with the money to invest, and it just sounds super fishy to me. They claim she will own a block of 6 or so of these apartments after completion. I texted her asking if she would please forward the email to me, but in the meantime, I'm scouring the internet for similar stories or anyone who may be wise to this. So I did answer that actually in the comments. I'll kind of rephrase and reiterate the answer here. Obvious scam. Obvious scam. And for one very obvious reason. Property developers, project managers, and so on do not email random people on the internet to ask for their investment and participation in construction projects. It just never happens. It does not happen. So if somebody contacts you with a get rich, here's a way you can get rich by participating in this property development scheme, it's got to be a scam. No property developer in their right mind would ever just cast the net out to random internet strangers to ask for their investment. That's not how you select investors. So definite scam. I haven't heard of that one in particular, but it has all of the markings of a scam, so not even slightly possibly genuine. Good question here. When you're shopping for these challenges, do you see something and have an idea what you'll do with it before you buy it? Some things you pick up, like stuffing mix, have me wondering what you'll do with it, but you must have an idea already. It's like you see recipes in your head. Well, kind of, I suppose. When I'm shopping for the challenges, I tend to focus first on whatever I feel is essential, and usually that's in terms of essential protein or energy. So I tend to focus first on buying the thing that's going to make the challenge work. And then it's a case of working around the edges of that to see what you can do to supplement it. So the stuffing mix in particular was an interesting one because I picked that up on a whim. I had already got the vegetable box and I'd got the chicken wings, so there was quite a lot of good stuff there already. And so then I was looking for something for energy. Now I did think about buying a bag of flour,
because you can do all sorts of things with flour, pastry, noodles, whatever. And I did think about buying a loaf of bread because, again, you can make sandwiches, you can dip bread in soup. And so I was just looking for something that would kind of go. And since chicken and stuffing is a winning combination anyway, it just seemed kind of like, okay, well, there's a thing. It is essentially bread. It was only 40-something pence in price, so it fit the budget. Not probably the cheapest way to make sage and onion stuffing, undoubtedly, because you could buy a loaf of bread. I could go and pick some sage in the garden, probably, and buy an onion, or use sage from the cupboard, and I could make sage and onion stuffing that way. But smallish price, and then it's already got all the flavourings and seasonings in there. So there was a little bit of convenience in that, which is unusual for a budget challenge. So when I go back and revisit that one, which is going to be the £5 for 2 people for more than one day, I don't think I'm going to be able to take options like that, where it's an easy packaged tasty thing, but it's not the best possible value for that 49 pence or whatever it was. Was it 49 pence? Anyway, so yeah, when I'm walking around, things are kind of assembling in my head, but it's more a case of possibilities rather than recipes. So when I was buying chicken, and obviously I had vegetables and chicken, so you know that there's going to be quite a lot of things possible with vegetables and chicken. And then when you add in bread and cheese, obviously then all sorts of recipes are possible. When the budget's more restricted and the shopping is not as successful as it was there, then definitely there are some ideas sort of starting to form. And this is why in some cases you see me pass up certain things. Like I think in a couple of videos I saw a pot of yogurt, a big pot of yogurt that was probably quite good value, but I couldn't think in my head at the time of anything I was going to do with that would go with the other things I had been able to get with the budget, and so I passed over things like that. And so when you see me pass over things, that's either because I've looked at it and thought, no, that's not going to go, or because I've just had a failure of imagination, and so I can't imagine a thing that would go, or a way to put that together with that, which is, something that happens to all of us. So yeah, sometimes ideas are in my head, sometimes it's just a case of possibilities are in my head, and sometimes the possibilities that exist aren't in my head. So, large onions. You saying that you really enjoy finding large onions at the store reminded me that one of my greatest little joys in life are the gigantic boxes of pumpkins at grocery stores in the fall. I don't mean carving pumpkins or pie pumpkins, although those are good too. I'm talking warty goblins, knuckleheads, luminas, all the weird boys. My absolute favourite are Cinderellas. I don't actually know what that means, but I'm going to look it up right now. Multiple times I've picked up a soft pinkish orange Cinderella while at the store and just not put it down for up to 20 minutes. So pretty, smells so nice, feels so good to hold. I made the trip home on the bus line with one once because I couldn't bring myself to pass it up. I had to transfer lines twice on the way home and it was still worth it. I'll probably force one into my bike saddlebag in a couple of months. Praise be to the produce section. Although that's a love. I absolutely love that. And yeah, why not? I do think it's important to recognise the things that make you happy and, if necessary, just dwell on them a little bit. So I've touched on this in quite a lot of videos in the past, but you can either just do a thing that makes you happy, or you can kind of allow it to take up a little bit more space in your life. And so, yeah, it does seem strange standing there holding a pumpkin for 20 minutes, admiring a pumpkin in the store. I think you'd probably get some strange looks there, but why not? If you're enjoying contemplating a beautiful pumpkin in a store, why should anyone stop you from doing that? Do the things that make you happy, especially, if they don't cost anything and they don't harm anyone. This is a comment on the bugs video where I ate some canned crickets and I think bamboo worms maybe, or it might have been silkworms. And somebody said, this is the man that can't eat cucumber. That is weird, isn't it? So yeah, I think my culinary tastes are relatively broad compared to perhaps some of my peers, but cucumber is a weird one. Yeah, 3 years ago, I suddenly found cucumber incredibly unpalatable. And it's just occurred to me while recording this that there are a couple of cucumber tasting segments earlier in the video, which you've already seen. So I've already explained what it might or might not be. Yeah, could be COVID.
I haven't had any symptoms, so I don't know that I've had COVID, but then it's like that sometimes. But yeah, cucumber went from being a kind of mild and relatively neutral tasting vegetable to something that just tastes incredibly stale and unpleasant to me now. It's a shame. I used to enjoy eating cucumber, but now I can't stand it. I suppose actually in terms of loss, that's not the worst thing that could happen to a person, is it? This is on the sweet akara video. Greetings from the Gambia. Very good effort, my friend. I hope you have a blessed day. Well, you too. Thank you very much. It means a lot to me when my weird culinary attempts are appreciated by the people who know them better than I do. The sweet akara recipe was a bit of a weird sort of let's make an African savoury dish into something that's a little bit more like a European sweet dish, donuts. And I enjoyed it. I think actually, if we're honest, Babatunde probably didn't enjoy it as much as I did. And that's to do with cultural background. A lot of the foods in Nigeria are savoury. Sweet things have been imported from Europe and other places in the world into Africa and are gaining popularity. But in terms of traditional flavour profiles, there are sweet spices in there like cinnamon and nutmeg, but they're typically paired with things like hot peppers, tomatoes, onions, and more savoury spices like, I suppose, ginger is on the borderline between sweet and savoury as a spice. And so, yeah, not that surprising actually that I enjoyed the sweet akara more than Babatunde did, and nothing wrong with that. That's all to do with cultural backgrounds and tastes. I tend to favour savoury stuff over sweet myself actually, but the division is probably in a different place. Okay, this is on pig hands. The pig hands video, that I think this was episode 176 of Weird Stuff in a Can. Curious as to the whereabouts of video 175. Thank you for pointing that out. That was just one I forgot to add to the playlist. And that happens. Very, very grateful to have those kind of correctable errors pointed out to me. There's a lot of things I can't correct after the event, so if I make a typo in a video, I can't fix it after I've uploaded. And other corrections, like you think I pronounced something wrong, might not actually be an error at all. But things like that, where it's a piece of admin to do with a video, so end cards are missing, it's not on the playlist, it ought to be. Obvious typo in the title, except for that one time where obvious typo is there for a reason. Things like that I can correct after upload. I'm always really grateful when people point them out to me, so thank you for that. And then a couple of comments which I have already addressed in a previous video you might have already watched. Just heard about the landslip at Seatown Beach. Hope you're all okay. Well, we are, because we weren't there. It happened during the night. A huge, huge landslip happened, and part of the cliff to the east of Seatown slipped and fell down onto the beach. And here's a picture of it. As you can see, that's quite a significant event. I'll just read the other comment. Anyway, seeing the landslip overnight at Seatown, I was reminded of this video and the comment at 10:56. I'm not sure if it would ever be a good idea to clamber up those cliffs. Well, case in point, there you go. Although looking at that landslip, the photo of it, it also wouldn't have been great to be on the beach when that happened. But I suspect if you're on the beach, you might have had a chance of running away from that. If you're halfway up the cliff, you're going to be in amongst all of that rubble. If you're sitting down at the bottom of that cliff, which a lot of people do, a lot of people go picnicking on these Dorset cliff beaches, and they put their picnic up just underneath the cliffs. And there's no way I can tell all these people, hey, you shouldn't be picnicking there, but it always gives me the heebie-jeebies when I see people kind of sitting right under unstable cliffs. West Bay was the case in point, and that video where I went for a walk around West Bay, was that in this video? I think it was. That's in this video. There's those enormous, tall, vertical cliffs and people pitching up to eat their picnic right underneath them. I mean, quite apart from the fact that somebody could drop something off the top of that cliff, there's a footpath up the top of that cliff, somebody could just drop something off the cliff and it'll land on you. That will kind of ruin your day. It's just not a great idea to be sitting right under those cliffs. Walking along that beach is dangerous enough, but sitting down gives you even less reaction time, and certainly climbing up the cliffs, just not going to do it. It's just, you know, people at Charmouth and Seatown that I've seen climbing up the cliffs and clambering up the mudslides and so on, they're looking for fossils, and it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. You can find better fossils on the foreshore anyway, as I've said in many a video. You can find
more durable fossils that have washed out and survived the kind of tumbling on the beach. The fossils you find in the cliffs do include those, but the majority of the fossils you find up there are all kind of flaky and crumbly. Anyway, that almost took a negative turn there, because that's all about landslides and being buried alive. So let's end on a positive, which is back to the little bit easier video, and love a shrimp portmanteau, shrimp manteau if you will. I do love my portmanteaus, if that's what they are. Sometimes I think they're possibly some other grammatical construction, but anyway, yeah, I do enjoy my dad jokes and my silly portmanteaus and nonsense wordplay.
We're going for a walk today along the River Brit from Bridport down to West Bay, and starting here at Bridport, so we're behind, this is Palmer's Brewery. Lovely old water wheel there, look at that. Yeah. So yeah, apparently this has been open since, this has been a brewery since 1794. And this is the River Brit. Quite a lot of flow there. And our footpath, it's quite a well-made footpath. And it follows the river most of the way down to West Bay. So I've always thought Bridport was a strange name for a town that's kind of inland. It's a little bit inland anyway, but of course this is the River Brit, Bridport, I suppose. I don't know, I mean the river does look like it was navigable, so if there's a lock down at the bottom end, then I presume this was, yeah, there's a quayside there, so perhaps supplies would have come up here from the port. I don't know. I haven't really researched the history. Perhaps I should do that next time I'm going somewhere. She can come off. She can come off the lead. She won't pull so much. Just stay out the water, alright? So Himalayan balsam here, a very pretty but invasive species, and part of the reason it's so invasive is the seed pods of this thing explode when they're fully ripe. Slightest touch causes the seed pods to explode and fling seeds everywhere, so it's very good at distributing its seeds around. So the river's quite slow here, which makes me think there's probably going to be a weir or a sluice or something up ahead a bit further. Perhaps there was a mill here, another mill. I mean obviously there's a water wheel there for the brewery. So we are going to pass under the main road here. So away from the noise of the road, interesting cafe and nursery, and I think there's like a architectural salvage place over there I ought to check out sometime. So I can see a big headland over there, which is probably a cliff overlooking the sea. I think we're not very far from West Bay. Not a tremendously interesting footpath. So, field of sheep here, and that's not a sheep, is it? So there's an alpaca there. I've heard of people doing this before actually, where they keep one alpaca in a herd of sheep, and it kind of, the alpacas kind of treat the sheep as if they're babies, the little short necks. So the alpaca will defend the sheep from other, well, I suppose dogs are the primary risk in a place like this. She's okay because she can't get through that fence. Oh, there's actually two there, so there's one lying down and there's one black one standing up. So yeah, people keep alpacas with sheep because the alpacas kind of act like parents to even the adult sheep. Have to be very careful with this one because she will chase them. She will chase sheep. She doesn't mean them any harm, but the sheep don't know that. And so, you know, if she's chasing after sheep, the sheep might run into a wire fence and hurt themselves, or run off a cliff or onto a road or anything like that. So have to keep the dog under control. Fortunately there's a secure fence here, so we're good. Right, this is meadowsweet. It's a plant in the rose family with aromatic flowers and leaves. The flowers have a very strong honey aroma, and the leaves have got a kind of vanilla, almost like root beer aroma. So there's a footpath there that goes across that field somewhere, indicated by these signs. I will, if there's enough interest, do a video about footpaths in the UK, because I've had quite a few people ask me, aren't you trespassing? Or how is it that you're allowed to walk everywhere? So footpath law in the UK, well, there's quite a lot to it. And I don't think the footpaths we've got here in the UK are as lenient or as open as the rights people have to travel on the land in places like Scandinavia. We've got a very, very extensive network of footpaths here, but in general you're just not allowed to just wander into somebody's fields or woods if it's private. There's quite a lot of public land, or publicly owned land, or forestry commission, that the public has a right of access to. Anyway, if there's enough interest, I'll do a video about sort of footpaths and rights of way and the countryside code in the UK. So the footpath emerges into a holiday park, but there is a footpath that goes, the public footpath that goes down to the left side here and follows the river down to the beach. So as we go down here, it's getting progressively more and more seasidey. Little sort of beach huts over there, riverboat hire, fish and chips. I can hear gulls. Somewhere over there is a harbour, and just around the corner there's a beach. So West Bay Cliffs, famously always collapsing, sometimes injuring and killing people. Don't picnic under the cliffs. And then down that way we've got, well, somewhere over there, Charmouth and Lyme Regis. I think this might be Seatown here. This could be Seatown just around the corner here, and that could be Golden Cap. Not ever so sure. Well, I think we'll walk along to the end of the pier, the end of the harbour wall, take the sea air. And you can see actually on there, you can see the remains of a cliff collapse down there. Really not safe to sit underneath those cliffs, and yet people do. Tiny bit choppy out there today. So we're here. Yeah, Charmouth. So yeah, Seatown must be there, I think. I just thought we'd take a look down here. Something rather accidentally Wes Anderson about that scene, I think. So there we go, that's West Bay. Right, we're going to head back to the car now. So leaving the holiday park behind and heading now back on the footpath towards Bridport. Not the most interesting walk, I would say. Not the most interesting footpath, certainly. West Bay's a bustling little seaside town. Perhaps another time we'll stop there and have fish and chips. Anyway, I hope that was interesting. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.